people who are determined to achieve well, the very positive relationships across the school which support a constructive and purposeful culture of learning which promotes very effective arrangement in learning by young people. The head teacher, senior leaders and staff have worked very successfully with young people to develop a high quality and well-structured framework of key principles in learning, teaching and assessment, and as a result young people take responsibility for their learning and benefit from motivating and enjoyable learning experiences. Young people benefit from a very extensive range of activities and programmes which support and develop their wider achievement, and young people's achievements are encouraged, recorded and celebrated by school staff highly effectively as a central part of the school's culture. Young people attain exceptionally well throughout their time at school. Staff use high quality approaches to monitor learners' progress and attainment and create skilled interventions to support them as required. And I was delighted that the final sentence of that says this supports well a culture where all young people are encouraged to succeed and flourish. And committee will note that that links well with that place to grow, the council's long-term vision. Paragraph 11 of your papers highlights the commitment of staff at all levels to ensure young people achieve and make progress across the school and the support service. The report notes that in 2022 and 2023 and 23-24, all young people who left the support service entered positive destinations on leaving school. The department is especially pleased at the use of data to improve learning experiences, attainment and participation in achievement and attendance was identified as practice worth sharing more widely across the country. In addition, the report highlights the culture that senior leaders, staff and young people have very successfully developed together that enables young people to be the best they can. The inspection team identified one area for improvement, and you'll note that it starts with continue to, and it's continue to build on the highly effective planning in learning, teaching and assessment. This should include further development of approaches to learning, teaching, assessment and improving attainment and achievement in the communication and support service. Given that the school has been judged to be very good and excellent in the two quality indicators, there is no need for an additional action plan to address the areas for improvement. However, considering the summarised inspection findings and the comments regarding the communication support service, Appendix 2 sets out the service's action plan to address the agreed areas for improvement. As a result of the very strong evaluations by Education Scotland, the Education Department recommends that the school be accredited for its achievements. This will mean that the authority will not carry out any formal quality assurance activities in William Wood High School for a period of 3 years from the date of publication of the report, i.e. until February 2028. Education Committee is asked to recognise and comment on the outstanding Education Scotland report on William Wood High School, commend the school's achievement by awarding it accreditation from February 2025 until February 2028, and approve the action plan to address the agreed areas for improvement in the communication support service. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Mark, and I'm delighted obviously that we have the head teacher Nicola McGlashan with us today, but prior to allowing Nicola to speak and she has some words, I believe, for us, our first ask is to recognise and comment on the report, so I'll put it out to the committee if you, Des.
Thanks, Convener. It's really just very simply as teachers representative of the committee to congratulate Nicola on this excellent report, and indeed all the staff at William Wood High School. So very well done, Nicola.
Great, absolutely, Des. Thank you, Councillor Prygram.
I've just got a few comments, Nicola. I'm very pleased that with this outstanding inspection. I'm really pleased that inspectors recognise the highly motivated and articulate young people. I've too have witnessed this firsthand, most recently at the graduation, where the school captains and deputies wrote some of the most fantastic and exceptional speeches I've ever heard, and they were a credit to themselves and the school community. And I think this is just excellent for our young people going forward. Also, there is mention of all young people who left the communication service going into positive destinations. I think the school should be commended for this, and it shows a commitment to all its pupils, and it's something that the school, I hope, is very proud of, and this Education Committee should be, and of course the council. Also pleased to know about the relevant and appropriate curriculum. I know a considerable amount of work has gone into expanding the curriculum in recent years, and having been at parent councils, this has been frequently discussed, and it just gives young people more options and opportunities, in particular some of the great partnerships actually coming to fruition. And I suppose this should be shared, hopefully, and as best practice. I know our other schools are doing similar work, but it's been great to see in recent years this really just coming to fruition. So I just want to thank you, Nicola, for your leadership, and thank all those teachers and staff at the school. I think it's really important we credit our pupil support assistants and those who are in our catering service and janitors. We know we have award-winning janitors in East Renfrewshire. And again, at the graduation, none of the pupils missed out, those people who are crucial to our schools operating the way they do. So thank you, and I hope that you can pass on my thanks to everyone at the school.
Thank you, Councillor Pang. Any other comments? Or Councillor Merrick?
Thanks, Convener. I'll be very brief because the results speak for themselves, really. And I suspect it doesn't really matter which pair of indicators they used, we would have got this result no matter which. And to leave it for 3 years for the next one, that's perfectly reasonable. But absolutely, congratulations, Nicola, and thank you. And congratulations to all your staff, and obviously the parents, the kids, and the education department also. But it's terrific to think that the children or the young people are coming out with that level of articulation and confidence and able to go into the rotten old world that's out there. But they're as best prepared as they can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Merrick. Any other comments from committee? There was a couple of things that I wanted to mention myself, and in particular, I'm always keen when you see the use of data and the fact that it's been shared more wider nationally as best practice, and I think I've heard that now and understand it in terms of following the data is key. It's actually a starting point, because then what does it mean, and how you then deal with it, and and obviously you've been exceptionally good at doing that. So I'm very glad to see that. The other thing that I noted when I was visiting the school recently, the Active Schools did the secondary games, and we noted, and the council leader noted as well, I think that's the Hall of Fame, or on the way into the PE area, and it's all the young people who have attained at the highest level in sport as well. So it's not just actually academically the outcomes that in the education that the young people are receiving, but it's the opportunity to excel, if that's the right word. And we were commenting on that with one of the PE teachers, and they said, "Oh, actually, we're about to put up another 15 to add to it," which is just incredible. That our young folk are actually going on to do things like that, as well as doing so well. So. Yes, thanks for coming to see us, and if there's no further comments, we'll actually allow you to say a few words, Nicola, please. Thank you.
Thank you all for inviting me along today, and thank you all for your kind words. Very much appreciated. On Monday the 3rd of February 2025, a team of 8 HMI inspectors arrived at Williamwood High School to evaluate and hopefully validate the internal findings of our school improvement journey. Throughout the week, our young people, staff and parents were questioned on their experiences at Williamwood High School. The inspectors also visited classes to assess the learning, teaching and assessment across all curricular areas in our school. A triangulation of responses and continuous questioning led to a very reflective and fair summary report of the culture, ethos, ambition and collegiate working within our school community. I am particularly proud of the numerous references throughout the report that highlights just how articulate, confident and driven our young people are, not only for themselves, but also for each other. They truly are an outstanding group of young people who embody our school values and are relentless about improving our school community. They have worked collaboratively with staff to embody our school vision of Mighty Oaks from Little Acorns Grow. They are Mighty Oaks, and it is an honour and a privilege to serve them. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all, the Education Committee and all elected members, for the support you continuously give to East Renfrewshire Education Department. Your dedication and commitment to our young people and their educational experiences is appreciated by all. To the Education Department, the Director, the Heads of Service, Senior Officers and the Quality Improvement Team, I thank you for your continuous support and challenge to help us remain focused on improving outcomes for all young people. You have also ensured that excellent experiences remain a key focus for William Wood High School. I would like to thank our parent body, the teaching and non-teaching staff who have worked tirelessly to create that culture of respect, ambition and kindness. And finally again, to our young people, I thank them for making William Wood High School a place where all young people feel safe, happy and included in our whole school community. Thank you for your time today, and I wish you all a lovely weekend when it comes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nicola. Anyone have any questions or words for Nicola at all? No? Excellent. So we're asked to commend the school's achievements by awarding accreditation from February 25 until February 28, and also approve the action plan to address the agreed areas for improvement in the communication support service. The committee is happy to do so. Excellent, thank you. So we'd like to present you with a plaque for the school, Nicola, if you don't mind, to allow you to take it back up to the school. I'll just try and move this chair. So we'll just allow Nicola to return back to her school, where I'm sure that's where she wants to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you everyone, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And sorry, we're going to have a spotlight, but prior to that, a presentation. We have Rosamond with us, and I'll hand over to you, Rosamond. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, sorry, Janice is going to introduce actually. Thanks, Janice.
Good morning. We've just heard about the excellent outcomes in one of our secondary schools, and this spotlight really focuses on that relentless drive to raise attainment and achievement as soon as young children enter our provisions in early years. When you're listening to this presentation, I want you to reflect on the presentation I provided in November last year about the SQA highlights, and be reminded of the contribution all our teachers and local government staff play in the success at the end of sixth year, because early years and primary play a huge part on those experiences. The purpose of this session is to shine a light on the work of the early years sector, in particular that focus on how they track learners' progress and how that continues the broad general education into secondary school. This also supports with the information that's going to be shared further on the agenda as part of the early years paper, And I'm delighted that Rosamund Coyle-Bennett, who's the co-author of that paper, is able to come along and join us this morning to share our approaches to tracking learners' progress in early learning and childcare in East Renfrewshire. So I welcome Rosamund.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Convener. I'm here today to highlight the work we've done over the past 8 years to improve the ways we track and monitor children's progress through our early years tracking tool that we've developed. Thank you, Graham. So there were two main drivers for developing the early years tracking tool, which began back in 2016-17. We knew locally, and it was shown nationally in the HMIE publication that you can see on the screen, that there was scope across early years settings to improve approaches to tracking and monitoring so that we could demonstrate the added value of our settings to children's development and learning. At the same time, the Scottish Government had announced the expansion to 1140 hours of early learning and childcare and published the Blueprint and Quality Action Plan, which also highlighted the need to share information and track children's progress really carefully. We needed to create a system that would be easy to use and would support practitioners to track children's learning throughout all our settings and support the transfer of information to our primary schools. We began by working collaboratively with groups of senior leaders and included the senior nurse and members of the Educational Psychology Service. This ensured that as we developed the tracking tool that you can see, that it was linked to Curriculum for Excellence and also took account of children's developmental milestones, importantly meaning that we could use it in both our under 3 provision as well as our 3 to 5 settings. So as soon as children start in one of our nurseries, we're able to take account of all the skills they've already learned and build on that as they move through their early learning journey. And you can see there just a brief outline of the timeline of that development. So the tool allows practitioners to record the skills that children can do, arising from their observations of children during their play. It's presented in this way with little buttons that staff can easily click, but it's not a tick list, it's not something just to work through. It allows them to plan experiences and design the learning environments to ensure that they promote the desired learning and support children to build their skills through a balance of adult and child-led play experiences. Each coloured button represents a skill that the child can do and achieve, and the colour coding highlights the skills typical for each stage of a child's development. And we can see this across each of the areas from numeracy, literacy, and health and well-being. And I was very grateful when I had to send these slides out well in advance, because I'm very aware that the writing is tiny, but hopefully you'll have been able to see the sort of different headings there. So I'll go into a little bit more detail. Here's just one example that shows some of the skills that sit beneath each heading, in this case looking at number. And really what I want to highlight is that what the tool does is make sure that there's no false ceiling on what children can do. Back in the old days when I started teaching in nurseries 30 years ago, the curriculum said that the children would learn to count up to 10, and that was it. So that aspiration now far exceeds those possibilities, because many of our children come into our ELC settings already able to do that. So breaking down the skills into smaller steps supports practitioners to what comes next. They can push children on in their learning and support them to develop appropriate next steps. Also, when practitioners and senior leaders look at the tracking tool, they can look for gaps and consider what the gaps mean. In this example that you can see, there are 3 skills related to data and analysis that have not been filled in. So does that mean that the child can't do it yet? Or does it mean that they've not had enough learning experiences to allow them to develop these skills? That nuance is important so that staff know what they need to do next. Where a child has had the experience but is not yet confident in the skills, then the question is, does that matter? Are we looking at a skill that's expected for a 5-year-old, but the child is only 3.5? It's about asking those questions with curiosity and discussing them as a team to decide what's the best way forward and the best thing to do next for those individual children. The conversations that we have about children's learning, of course, don't happen only in the ELC settings. They're especially crucial at times of transition. In the past few years, we've enhanced the way in which data from the tracking tool is used in primary schools, with our staff in ELC settings completing each child's record and summarising their progress in the summative report by the end of May. We've also built this into the tracking tool, which reduces workload and bureaucracy for our staff, because it's far easier for them to do that than have to start from a blank page when they've got all that data at their fingertips. We have a wonderful data analyst, Emma Pickard. She takes care of all the technology, and she turns all the data around from the nurseries that each child is in to the school that they're going to go to in August, and we share that with the schools early in June so that everyone can access all the information they need and use it meaningfully to support children's transition into primary 1 and ensure continuity in their learning. We've also supported senior leaders across both the nursery settings and head teachers in schools to make sure that they are familiar with the tool where perhaps they wouldn't be using it on a daily basis, so that they can support those wider conversations in their own establishments. It also then helps them to support moderation. Practitioners across each sector work together in their clusters and neighbourhoods to develop shared understandings of each skill and shared expectations. In this example, you can see that in School 1, well, if you've got a magnifying glass, you can see that in School 1, 63% of children can recognise initial sounds, but in School 2, only 31% can. So what does that mean? Again, it's about the curiosity. Why is this? Is it about the experiences? Do we all mean the same thing when we talk about sounds and letters and names of sounds? What makes a difference for the children attending School 1? Is there practice there that we can share more widely? It's all about that curiosity when it comes to looking at our data and deciding what it means and what we need to do. So we're also using it to improve practice in our primary 1 settings. And I think I've said what the children can do quite a few times already, because that's one of the key tenets of any early years education, and indeed across education, is about building on what the children can do already. We know that children are learning right from birth, and that builds and builds. Traditionally, back when I was in primary 1, there was a lot of whole class teaching, but now we recognise that journey of learning that children have been on from their youngest days, and they already know so much when they start school. So if a teacher is looking at these two children both coming into the class, it's evident that they have different skills, and therefore it's evident that their next steps aren't going to be the same. So if there's any tendency towards that traditional approach, the tracking tool shows and demonstrates how that won't meet all children's needs. Teachers need to start differentiating right from the beginning to make sure all children get the challenge and the support they need to make good progress. We can see an example of that in Busby Nursery class in particular. Over the last few years, they've achieved all these different things by using the tracking tool. They're really using it meaningfully, both in the nursery class and in the primary 1 part of the school. The practitioners are working closely together. Their play pedagogy in primary 1 has improved. They support CDOs coming into the primary 1 to be able to support that learning and development. And it's really reaped huge benefits in both the nursery and the school. And in the next slide, you'll be able to see the impact that it's had on their attainment of early level. When we meet children where they are, they make progress more quickly. Time isn't wasted and they don't get bored. They're still learning through the balance of adult and child-led play experiences, but at a pace that is right for them. For some, as we can see here, that means they're achieving early level within the first few months of primary 1. and certainly by February, which exceeds the national expectations, but what we would expect from our children in East Renfrewshire that we know go on to achieve such great things when they leave secondary school. And the rest of the children typically achieve it by the end of June, as is the national norm. And it's really about recognising that progress that children can make so that throughout their school career they've got that learning under their belt, as it were. So just finally, how are we going to continue to improve? Well, at the moment, if we want to analyse data from the early years tracking tool, it involves getting huge spreadsheets of data and analysing it. I've had to learn how to do pivot tables in order to do that. But even so, it's allowed us to demonstrate improvements year on year, and hopefully you can see there that each year all of those skills are building across all of our settings. Moving forward, we are about to launch the new Power BI dashboard, which will be, I think, transformational, as it has been for our ACIL and attendance data and SQA measures as well. The build is nearly finished and it's ready for testing, and we're hoping that some of our family centres will be able to do this over the summer so that we can launch it early in the new term. It will give us much more functionality and provide useful data for us at the centre, for clusters and schools and ELC settings. We'll all be able to use it to support and challenge children in their settings and ensure that they make the best possible progress from their earliest experiences in nursery. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosamond. That was very informative, and I believe it was something that we had talked about and requested, and very grateful for you to come and bring it to us. Any questions or comments that anyone has for Rosamond at all? Sorry, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you. Yeah. First of all, just say what a tremendous body of work that's gone into that, and I commend the department for. I can't underestimate. The amount of work that's gone into that is very clear. But I think the key thing here, just how valuable that information must be for teachers. Let's say in August, when they're taking in a new class and they've been here the year before and they've got no knowledge of the class coming in, the amount of information that is available for the teacher that is now taking on that class. And these particular individuals in the class. But I think the other thing that this underlines is that there's always this perception that teachers are only working when they're in front of a class teaching, and yet all this body of work that's gone in here is absolutely critical, and it actually creates a situation in which when teachers are in front of us, because of that information, everything they're doing is so much more focused and bringing on that individual. So to just commend the department, I think it's a tremendous body of work, and keep it going. Thanks.
Absolutely, I agree with you there, Councillor Wallace. Any other questions or comments? So, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I was really pretty much going to say what Councillor Wallace said, and I really like. What's happening with this is that it is endeavouring to get it right for every child, and I think that's commendable. It really is. I'm really delighted to see that, and also I really must thank you for giving us this beforehand, because because when we come into the chamber and we get this thrown up in front of us and we can't read it or see it, and to be able to sort of absorb some of it before was marvellous. So thank you very much for that also. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I think that's noted as well, the circulation of it prior to the committee. Councillor Pegram.
Again, I just want to echo some of the comments from my colleagues. I was just wondering, given that we have quite a few private nurseries in East Renfrewshire, who obviously access 1140 hours, is this available for them as well? And how does this tracking tool compare with other local authorities in Scotland? And as I presume, East Renfrewshire being East Renfrewshire, this is very unique, but how does it compare?
There's a long and short answer to that. So if I take the sort of thinking behind the the tracking tool for early years, and I'm looking around, and I think some people were part of Education Committee when we brought the 1140 expansion plan, and it was an action within there, and partly it was to support blended placements, because that was going to be an option where children would attend more than one early learning childcare, and how did we avoid that duplication. There was also a part that the director was had the remit of performance and was driving that data-informed culture within East Renfrewshire, and it was for all learners, not just those in primary and secondary. So, but access with our funded providers was key to that. They do have access in paper form, unfortunately, at the moment. We have invested quite a lot and worked closely with our colleagues in ICT, and there has been barriers that we are breaking down, maybe not as quickly as we would like, but they do have access in paper form, and it's all to do with protecting information that's owned by the council. But we are working closely, and there's solutions in the horizon. My colleague Graham might be able to come in and tell us a wee bit more about that in a minute. We work very closely with our funded providers in terms of we work in neighbourhoods, so that I am confident that this information is shared, albeit that it is unfortunate that they don't have the digital access. I would say confidently that we were one of the first in Scotland to have a tracking tool in early years. Almost all local authorities have one now. I don't think it bridges early level the way that ours does, but as part of that sharing good practice, last year the West Partnership all shared their tracking tools, because we do learn from others and they learn from us, and we have been able to adapt ours when some things that other local authorities are doing, and equally they've been able to take some of our information. It's more about a coverage, some of the tools that I've seen, but not necessarily about that data informed. And I think over the last couple of years, the way it's been used by our primary schools in particular, in partnership with their early years, lets us confidently know that our children are not starting from scratch, and we are data informed in early years. Do you want to?
Yeah, very briefly, Councillor Pragnell. It's certainly our ambition, I think, probably early in the new session, that our funded providers would start to have access to that. There's, as Janice has touched on, there's a number of issues in terms of just the kind of access to the databases and ensuring that data is held securely. We're in a phase where I think we're now managing to overcome that. So certainly it's an ambition, I would say early in the new session they would start to have access to that, and then obviously the training and things that will come with that.
Right, thank you. Thanks for the answers. Thanks for the questions, Councillor Pragnell. It was the one thing, actually, one of the things that occurred to me straight away, obviously, was the consistency across all the providers, and even childminders, which we have as well. And I first thought that came to my head, that's going to be a challenge, and it sounds that you fully recognise it. The parental engagement and awareness. Rosamond, how aware are they of this tracking?
So in nurseries they'll have parents' nights and consultations the same way as they do in schools, and so each establishment will have their own approach to how they share all of the information that's there. Their usual digital platform for sharing information with parents tends to be Seesaw that nurseries use, and the observations that staff write on Seesaw are what they then use to populate the early years tracking tool. So that information will very much be, part of their ongoing conversations with parents, and then at the end of their preschool journey, they'll get the summative report produced directly from the tool itself.
So the parents have the opportunity to maybe not challenge it, but discuss it and understand what actually what's being recorded, what it means.
Absolutely, and we've made a very conscious decision around that, because particularly on the summative reporting page, where something isn't ticked, for want of a better phrase, what happens is it says not observed, as in it wasn't observed in the nursery. It doesn't necessarily mean that the child can't do it, because a parent might say, no, that's something my wee one can do, and that's absolutely valid. And so through ongoing conversations. Actually, I'm talking about that at the point of when a child's leaving nursery, but right from the earliest stages, there's always those two-way conversations with parents about their children's skills, and so staff will be able to take that on board and, you know, document appropriately where children are able to do things that they've not necessarily witnessed for themselves if the parents are sharing that information.
Okay, great, thanks. As Councillor Wallace said, it is a significant amount of work. In terms of the dashboard, and I think you talked about the availability and who actually gets to see that and who it informs. I think it's obviously not something, or is it appropriate at all to share externally, or is it purely for internal use?
It's reporting on children's progress, so that would have sensitivities around who would share it.
Okay, I'm just thinking if it was actually, because I think dashboards are a great thing, actually, to help inform lots of people.
So the Power BI dashboard will anonymise and will be able to share, so you would be able to compare one early year setting with another within East Renfrewshire. So for example, if we look at the developmental milestones and the children who attend Carolside nursery class are not achieving them, just making this up for anyone who's listening online. I don't know that level of detail about Carolside nursery class, but they're maybe not achieving their developmental milestones linked to gross motor skills, but yet in Arthurlie Family Centre they are. So you'll be able to see that in terms of the dashboard, and that will open up that curiosity, which is a lovely way that Rosamond described it, where the leaders of Carolside nursery class would ask the question, is it because our children are not able to do that, or are we not providing the experiences? And if we think back to Curriculum for Excellence, it's about experiences and outcome. We create the experiences for children to achieve those outcomes. So it allows that reflection on what the data's telling us, and then to go back and figure out why and what sort of a teaching approaches we need to put in place.
And that's the key thing, is actually following what does the data mean and how do you respond to it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And going back to the curriculum and teaching. And I think that's the bit about early years, that adult-led, that child-led and that adult-initiated, but making sure that we have a curriculum to follow that crosses early level straight into primary school, part of that broad general education.
And the absolute key thing is obviously about the possible ability to intervene for a specific child, that focus that Gordon, Councillor Wallace talked about, and then to transition, that makes the transition to primary school, which can be going to, you know, a early learning childcare setting to a primary school, it's much bigger, and for a small person to, you know, be to help, anything that helps with that is good.
Yes.
I think, Councillor Wallace, you've got another comment or question?
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. Yeah, just coming back to the amount of work that's gone into this, and we were, I think, the first to do this, to use this tracking system for early years. If you think about it, this, in a sense, the way I'm understanding it, this really has to be replicated 32 times over. Is it 32 times the same amount of work that's going in over, or do we share this? I mean, for example, through the West Partnership or whatever, that share this expertise, that we're able to, that each authority can save money and we can maybe save likewise. Maybe if somebody could comment on that, thanks.
Yes, happy to do. We've been asked to present this nationally way back in 2019, before the expansion, and most recently Education Scotland have worked closely with Rosamond for a national tool to sort of take the best bits from everywhere, but they reached out to East Renfrew because they were aware that we had something up and running prior to the expansion, so they were keen. So I would confidently say that the work that Rosamond and the heads and deputies and CDOs have taken place is shaping the national approach to tracking in early years.
Excellent. Thank you, Janice. I think we've extensively discussed that, and commend you on your work. It's excellent. And so if you're happy to stay for the next paper, because it's early learning and childcare, I don't know if it's relevant or...
She's the author of it, co-author with it, so I think she knows the content, so she...
Okay. Thank you. I'll let you go, Rosamond. Thank you. And so, okay, we will, and Janice, I think it's you to present the annual report to the next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of the report is to update members on the approaches taken to develop early learning and childcare services. The report outlines the next steps to improve further the quality, flexibility, accessibility and affordability of provision and experiences for our youngest children. The report sets out a high-level summary of progress regarding the quality of provision, the quality of the workforce, the flexibility offered to our residents and the accessibility that's available across East Renfrewshire. Appendix 1 provides additional detail. A few key areas members may wish to note is the quality of early and childcare in our local authority settings continues to exceed the national standard, with 83% achieving evaluations of very good or better. This compares very favourably with data published by the Care Inspectorate, which shows nationally that 30% of settings have evaluations of very good or better. The flexibility and choice offered to children and families when applying for ELC provision, with 95% of families allocated their first choice of setting. The continued efficiency of service delivery through the maximisation of our staffed capacity, leading to opportunities for income maximisation. The ensuring that those who need us most are still supported through the Early Years Intervention Group. The successful and healthy partnership we have with a range of funded providers, and the many successes and few challenges that are detailed as part of Appendix 1. Education Committee is asked to note and comment on the continued progress of delivery of 1140 hours of early learning childcare and agree the proposed sustainable rate for funded providers and consent to backdate the payment to the 1st of April 2025. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Janice. And obviously it follows on from, the tracking tool is a key part of everything that happens. If this is the annual report, any questions or comments from members on the committee on the report? There is a couple of things that it mentioned about St John's. Obviously the data is not available. I think it's said in the report. But so I visited it recently. But are you anticipating that it will be performing? Have you any early indications? I think it seems to be doing quite well going from the visit.
Absolutely. For any nursery provision East Renfrewshire, whether it's funded providers or local authority, they must meet the national standard. And the officers with the responsibility of early years go out on an annual basis to visit each nursery, and that included St John's, so that we were confident before the doors were open to any child that they were meeting the national standard, and I think we can confidently say they're exceeding it.
I'd agree. It was a lovely place to go to, and enjoyed it very much, and lots of wee happy people, which and the staff were loving it, and were delighted to be there. And the CDO, senior CDO I talked to, and I think the principal, clearly very very happy to have this facility that they have. Sorry, Councillor Prime.
It's a question that's relevant to this report and one coming later in the agenda. Are you confident that there is enough provision for the 0 to 2 age group? I know that it can seem amongst parents it's perception versus reality. You'll see that probably on a lot of the community pages. People are saying they struggle to get access for their 0 to 2 year olds. Are you confident there is provision, and where is the balance of perception versus reality?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Parnell. I think certainly for 0 to 2s it is obviously trickier. We recognise that there is a lot of demand out there, and it is obviously something that we try and support where we can. I mean, it's obviously one that we don't have the sort of same statutory duties to provide in terms of 1140, which obviously does mean there's not as much availability, I suppose, as perhaps some families would like. And we obviously do have provision currently at Glen, and obviously relating to the kind of paper that's coming later, at Macready, at Arthurlie. So there are a number of provisions that we have, and that also allows us to support particularly families where there's maybe that kind of additional intervention required, and there's kind of additional support is required for them. And obviously we work very closely. There's a number of providers across East Renfrewshire, like our private partners, some voluntary organisations, things like that, and that will also provide those services. But yeah, look, I recognise that, you know, some families can find it challenging. They, you know, they can be challenging in terms of trying to get that, but we certainly do work with families to provide that availability where we can.
It's just really to say, picking up, we are confidently providing it for those that we have a statutory duty to provide it for. And I think we just need to, we are mindful that there is need, but we are confidently fulfil our duty.
Thank you both. Thank you, Councillor Privenall. Any other questions or comments? There was obviously you we're keen to ensure there's as much provision in the area and choice for parents, and there was the 3 settings that are being supported with an improvement programme. Is that progressing well, or are you able to say? And because obviously, I think was it last year at one point, the report mentioned that a facility had closed, and obviously they want to keep as many open as possible to give parents as much choice as possible. Are there any comments you can make on that at all?
Yeah, as guarantors of quality, as well as providing a sustainable rate, we provide extensive support. We have an officer who predominantly works alongside our funded providers to raise the quality. We also provide access to a teacher to all of our funded providers, because it's East Renfrewshire children that attend these settings. So although they are private businesses and choose to operate and close or open or sell what's out with our jurisdiction, the quality of experience is something that we take really seriously for all our children, and we would like to offer with confidence that choice for parents to access their provision anywhere they like. So almost all make progress with that support. We also have access to the Care Inspectorate, have a specific support programme. We make referrals, but again, it's up to providers how well they engage with that. There's changes to the Care Inspectorate programme from August, where they will report to local authorities attendance and participation, which will be able for us to support and go in and ask why people are maybe not taking the support that's on offer. But for those that are listed in the report, we are working closely alongside, and we do have success of folk having more successful Care Inspectorate inspections post that support. However, some stay on it a wee bit longer.
Okay, thanks, Janice. I think that's quite a reassuring answer. I think it's worthwhile, and I think we may have noted this before with the committee, but the delayed taking up of like a child who can actually stay in early learning childcare longer. I think there's implications that the committee should maybe be aware of when it comes to then the child when they actually go to P1, and it's been delayed implications for the school. I think can you make any comments on that, because the school then has to cope with different ages, like almost within one class.
So can I clarify, you talking about deferrals?
Deferral, sorry.
Yes.
Sure.
So you'll see that we do, and we've always had a significant number of children who defer in East Renfrewshire, and that choice is obviously being extended. But I would hope that the presentation, the spotlight by Rosamond, shows the need to start from where the child is at. And that's for nurseries as well as primaries, because you potentially could have children just age 3 and those almost 6 in the same playroom. But we do have a curriculum and we do have a tracking database, and we would be supporting our colleagues to start from the child and based it on what the child can and can't do.
I think that's a key thing that actually is for the committee to realise, is that because of that way, the awareness of where each child is actually at, that's why we can cope, I think.
And I think that's the message to our primary 1 staff, that children are coming in at very different stages now. From maybe when I taught P1 and it was colours, never mind numbers.
Okay, right. Thanks very much, Janice. One final thing. I believe as a result, there was a figure about it was nearly £1 million in paragraph 25. where, because it talked about the financial implications, and it's an income. So that goes back into early learning and childcare. It's additional funds that we have available, or how would you describe it exactly? I'm not a financial person.
Yes. So as part of the kind of budget, we have an income target that is set, and we obviously have to kind of work towards achieving that. So that's already kind of accounted for within the wider sort of council budget, I suppose, in terms of the income that we generate through early years.
But if we weren't generating that, sorry, it actually helps us elsewhere.
It's kind of part of that wider council budget.
Thanks.
But just for clarity, if we don't reach that target, we have to find that budget from within the remaining department budget. So it's a target that's set. If we go above it, then obviously we can reinvest that in early years. But if we don't meet the nearly £1 million, we need to find that from other savings across the department.
And again, I think it's just something important for the committee to realise that the implications of it, and the fact that we are actually achieving it and exceeding it. So it's good news. Thank you. Okay. I think any other questions or comments? No, I believe not. Great. Thanks very much, Janice. And but I believe the next paper is you again, and it's the Education Scotland thematic inspection. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. The purpose of the report is to inform elected members and Education Committee of the report by Education Scotland on the Education Department's approaches to supporting school improvement. In June 2024, His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Education announced a national thematic inspection of local authorities in Scotland. The focus of this thematic inspection was how local authorities support schools to improve. Page 49, paragraph 4 details the 4 key themes which were in focus as part of the inspection. How local authorities support schools to improve the quality of education through implementing effective improvement planning and standards and quality reporting. How local authorities support schools to improve the quality of education through self-evaluation and quality assurance. How local authorities support schools to improve the quality of education through professional learning. And how local authorities deliver universal support and challenge for all schools and targeted support for specific schools to improve the quality of education. In September 2024, 2 of His Majesty's inspectors and an associate assessor from another local authority spent 4 days in East Renfrewshire analysing documentation and speaking to a range of stakeholders including school staff, school leaders, the Quality Improvement Team, the Education Leadership Team, parents and Education Committee members. A short report was published and shared in March 2025, which can be found as an appendix of this paper. In addition, a national report detailing a summary of the position across all 32 local authorities, a link of which was provided with this report. In assessing the 4 themes as detailed in paragraph 4 above, no evaluations were provided. This was consistent for all 32 local authorities. It was particularly pleasing that Education Scotland highlighted 2 areas worth sharing nationally. The local authority promotes and supports very well continuous professional learning for staff at all levels. The personal and professional commitments of staff reflect the expectations of high quality learning and teaching from the local authority. Opportunities for staff at all levels to participate in and lead authority-wide improvements are creating a culture of ownership and pride in education, resulting in improved outcomes and experiences for learners. Staff talk about how much they value opportunities to develop resources and strategies that lead to authority-wide improvements. These opportunities provide professional learning, collaboration with others and sharing of effective practice. As a result, staff feel empowered and they are important contributors to improving outcomes for all our learners across the authority. Page 50, paragraph 11 also highlights information regarding East Renfrewshire that features in the national report. This is a very strong report with a range of key strengths identified by the inspection team. These include head teachers that are very well supported by their link local officers to develop improvement plans, how the local authority promotes the collaboration of all stakeholders, especially learners, as essential to self-evaluation, and how there's very strong practice in how local authorities gathers learners' views. The local authority has a comprehensive and multifaceted approach to quality assurance that provides rich intelligence on school performance and practice. Local authorities regularly discuss as a team the outcomes of quality assurance visits. Elected members are highly knowledgeable about how the local authority supports schools to improve the quality of their education, and they are provided with a wide range of information and data about the performance of schools. The report did provide evidence that the department will consider in its continuous journey of improvement. This includes the continuation of support and challenge to our schools with improvement planning, and that refresh and continually updating our career-long professional learning offer. Along with the Quality Improvement Team, the Head of Service for Performance and Quality Improvement will address the areas shared in paragraph 12 of the report and align with the operational action plans linked to our local improvement plan for 25-28. Education Committee is asked to note and comment on the contents of the Education Scotland report. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Sorry, I was just going to pause for a minute, if you don't mind, before we note and comment, because I think we've got a technical issue where is this the online recording PC looks as if it's about to restart. Can you snooze it?
So yeah, just for the information of anyone watching online, the PC is requesting a Windows update of some kind. We would have to restart the PC to do it. It's given me a 10-minute countdown and it will not allow it to be skipped. So I'd have to terminate the Teams recording for a moment and give a couple of minutes for that to be updated, and then we could go back online.
So Councillor Wallace, did you hear that? We're about to lose external connectivity and recording, I believe, and
the recording will continue to work. That's actually a different system.
Oh, sorry, right.
It's just the unit that we're currently connected to Teams with has to be restarted to allow this update to happen. It will take a couple of minutes.
All right. Are we all happy to allow a couple of minutes just to allow then Councillor Wallace to rejoin before we proceed? Janice, sorry to interrupt you. Can I very quickly say then, sorry,
just Councillor Wallace, you can actually remain in the meeting and we'll drop out and then come back in.
Oh, okay. There was very briefly, there was actually something in the previous paper where we meant to agree the proposed sustainable rate for funded providers and consent to the backdated payment for early learning and childcare. Committee's happy to do so after the discussion on the previous paper. Great, thanks. That clears that up, and then we can resume shortly. Does anyone want a comfort break at all?
Just to be clear, Chair, are we adjourning the meeting at the moment? Okay, I'll stop the recording just now.